Hello all. Okay, so it's RW Lit time right now, and we're actually going to do a review of lesson 12. Okay, so we're still going to finish up Quake since it's been a few weeks, and our objective is to reread pages 20 through 24, and we're going to see how literary text can inform readers about a real event. And the real event that you guys read about was the 1906 San Francisco earthquake. And remember, the main character was Jacob. So I need you guys to go into your text collection and then reread Quake, pages 20 through 24. And I'm also going to have it playing in the next video for you, just in case.
Everybody got out of this house before the walls gave way, at least everybody who was able to get out. Jacob studied the man's face. The man met Jacob's eyes. "Look, kid, there ain't no point in breaking your neck trying to dig through all this," the man said. "If your family was trapped in this here building, they're goners, and that's the truth of it. If somebody was still alive here, we would have heard 'em screaming by now. Lord knows we've heard plenty of screaming next door where the Nevada was." Jacob hesitated. "Instead of breaking your neck up there, why don't you go ask around the street? Maybe somebody's seen your folks." Jacob scanned the jumble of boards, railing posts, furniture, and unidentifiable objects that was once their boarding house. He really didn't know where to begin tunneling to uncover their apartment, and it was plain that he couldn't sort through this entire mound by himself. The man's suggestion made sense. Maybe somebody on the street had seen Papa and Sophie. Brushing little nuggets of broken glass off his sleeve, Jacob noticed his wrist was bleeding, but he ignored the trickle of blood and said, "Maybe you know my father? He's pretty tall and thin with dark hair. Itzhak Kaufman's his name. He's a butcher. He would have had a little girl with him, my sister, Sophie. She's 5, curly hair and big brown eyes." The man shrugged. "Sorry, kid, I don't know the name, and you're describing hundreds of folks down this way." Jacob nodded, stamping his feet to shake off some of the dust. The man ripped a length of fabric off the hem of his shirt and motioned for Jacob to hold out his bleeding arm. "I don't see any shards of glass in here," he said as he tied the fabric around the wound. "Better wash it clean when you get a chance, though." Jacob sniffed. "Do you smell something burning?" he asked. The man frowned. "Fire's coming this way. It's 3, maybe 4 streets over. Fires are starting all over the city, and with the water lines cracked, ain't no way to put 'em out. Don't know what we're going to do." He shook his head. "Even if the city had enough fire engines to go around, how could them wagons get through the mess in the streets? Guess it don't matter down here, though." "Who's going to worry about these cheap boarding houses with them big fancy buildings downtown in danger of burning up?" "Hey, Mac," a voice called from the collapsed Nevada house. "Over here," yelled the man who was helping Jacob. "Think I got somebody. Can you give a hand?" Jacob followed Mac, who hurried back to the mountain of debris where the Nevada boarding house once stood. "Better stay back, kid," said Mac. "Don't want you getting hurt again." He disappeared into what looked like a tunnel leading down into the ground. It was dark at the bottom, and Jacob could see water seeping through the boards. After a few moments, Mac and 3 other men emerged from the hole, balancing the body of a woman on a long board. Jacob helped clear a path for them to the street. A knot of onlookers crowded around the men, pushing in to see the body as the men laid it down. Jacob looked at their faces and understood that these people were searching for their families too. When the rescuers carried out a lifeless body, all the people waiting on the street hurried over, praying the dead person wasn't somebody they knew and loved. Jacob edged into the group. 2 of the rescuers were standing with their heads bowed in prayer. Eyes closed, they held their right hands over their hearts. He heard someone wailing. The dog pushed through Jacob's legs and sat on his foot. Jacob bent down and picked him up. One large man broke away from the group. Mac grabbed the man's arm and said, "Hold on, Callahan. Surely you can spare a minute for a bit of a prayer. This is Duncan O'Connor's mum." Jacob gasped. "Timothy's grandmother? That's the woman I met last night. I offered to carry her bundles up the stairs for her." He stared at the body. Mrs. O'Connor looked so different that he barely recognized her. She was as motionless as a fallen tree, but her eyes were wide open. A long nightshirt clung to her white body, and the skin on her bare legs glistened with moisture. Her gray hair was pasted against her head, and her face was puffy. The skin on one side of her forehead was bruised and purple, like something had fallen on her while she was lying in bed. Forcing himself to shut his eyes, Jacob tried to remember the words of the Kaddish, the Hebrew prayer for the dead that he'd recited so often after his mother's death. But his heart was thumping so fast that he couldn't think. Icy prickles of terror ran up and down the skin on his arms. Fear washed over Jacob. A little girl tugged at the skirt of the woman next to Jacob. "Why is she all wet, Mama?" "I don't know. Maybe the water line broke and flooded the bottom floors." "But where's Timothy? Didn't he live with his granny?" the child asked. "Is Timothy all right?" "I don't know, child. I haven't seen Timothy, but he might have gotten out earlier. Don't keep pestering me with so many questions right now. They've been carrying folks out of there all morning, and it looks like anybody left in there's been drowned." Fear washed over Jacob. What about Papa and Sophie? Please, God, don't let them be drowned. He backed away from the cluster of people and stumbled into the street, the dog following at his heels. Jacob's stomach was queasy, and his arms and legs felt shaky. He flopped onto the ground and closed his eyes. The dog nosed Jacob's neck. When Jacob didn't move, the dog whined and licked the boy's nose with its sticky tongue. Jacob sat up and opened his eyes, grimacing at the sour odor of the dog's breath. He stroked the animal's ears while he peered around the street. Lots of people were standing in little clumps on the street, but he didn't see anybody he knew. I guess most of our neighbors have already left, he thought. Where did everybody go? Leather shoes were scattered around the street near where he sat. Jacob reached for one. Its heel was missing. This must be from Mr. Strasberg's shop. Jacob wondered if the old cobbler, who lived in a room behind his shop, had made it out in time. Picking himself up, Jacob brushed off the seat of his pants. He took a deep breath and walked over to a man leaning on a wheelbarrow full of clothing. "Pardon me," he said. "My name's Jacob Kaufman. We live in that house next door to the Nevada. Have you seen my father, Itzhak Kaufman, the butcher? He's got dark hair. He'd have my sister with him. She's only 5, dark curly hair." The man shook his head. Jacob thanked him and went from person to person, asking the same questions. They all tried to be helpful, but nobody knew Itzhak Kaufman. Nobody remembered seeing a man and a girl that matched their description. "Sorry, son," a tall woman told him. She had tears in her eyes. "I can't find my father either. He's so crippled up with the rheumatiz that he can hardly walk. I've been searching for him all morning." "A lot of families got separated," another woman muttered. "Try not to worry, kid. You'll find him." Finally, a freckled woman with a kerchief tied around her hair smiled at Jacob. "I think I know who you're talking about," she said. "Your father's the butcher, isn't he?" "Yes," Jacob said. He held his breath. "I used to buy meat from him," she continued. "His wife died not too long ago, right?" Jacob nodded. "Have you seen him?" "I saw someone who looked like him on the street this morning, maybe an hour or two ago. He was carrying a little girl. She had her thumb in her mouth." "That's her," Jacob said. "That's Sophie. They're alive, both of them." Jacob felt like flying. "Do you know where they went?" The woman shook her head. "No, can't say I do, but maybe somebody else saw them." She turned and called to a red-haired man in a cap. "Eddie, you remember the butcher, Mr. Kaufman? He lived in the same building as Fritz. Have you seen him? This is his son." The man nodded at Jacob. "Kaufman, the butcher? Yes, I know your da. Saw him this morning, I did, right after the big shake." He looked around the street. "But that was a couple of hours ago. Don't know where he is now. Maybe you got an aunt or granny living down here?" "No, my uncle." Suddenly a thought flashed through Jacob's mind. "I know where they went. Papa thinks I'm at Uncle Avi's stand. He must have gone looking for me there," Jacob exclaimed. He shook the man's hand up and down. "Thank you, mister, thank you." Tears slid down Jacob's cheeks. He wiped them with his sleeves and stammered, "See, I was afraid that—" "Of course you were," the man patted Jacob's shoulder. "I understand," he said. "It's only natural. You were afraid your dog got crushed when the building fell. That's how any man would feel." Swallowing hard, Jacob tried to steady his voice. "Well, I'll be seeing you," he said. "Good luck, and thanks again for your help." Jacob took off at a trot, heading back toward Market Street. The dog bounded along beside him.
Okay, so that should have been like maybe the fourth or fifth time we read that ending, but on page 23, there is a conversation between a little girl and her mother. Why do you guys think that the author wrote this dialogue in this part of the story? I'm going to give you a few seconds to think about it. Okay, so the dialogue was there to help you guys visualize, like feel like you're there and actually see what they are seeing. And it explains to you, the reader, that the rescuers have been working so hard to find the people in all the debris all morning, and there's still people trapped in that rubble. Okay, so that question I just gave you, that was one of our close read questions that I would have timed you in the classroom, giving you like 15 seconds. So we'll be having a few more of those in our upcoming videos. We will also have a classroom discussion on Flipgrid. Okay, so you have to check today's Flipgrid assignment by logging in there. I'll have the prompt written out for you. Let's see. I also want to tell you guys that we are still going to be doing opinion writing, which you are so great at. You guys are like pros. So I'm gonna actually play a vocabulary video next, and it's about opinion writing.
Hey Maurice, did you finish the opinion piece for the school newspaper?
Of course I did. I wrote about why breakfast is the best meal of the day.
What a great topic. Wait a minute. This just lists your favorite breakfast foods. And it says here that it's best because you say so.
Sure is.
And the last sentence says you like dinner just as much.
I do.
I think we're gonna need to work through this one together. Okay, Maurice, let's get to work on this opinion piece. The topic's great, true for you, but maybe not for me. Let's start by stating your opinion very clearly. Breakfast is the best meal, period. You feel me? This shouldn't never be a fact or something always true. For example, you won't argue that the sky is blue, but facts are needed to support your opinion and explain why you're eating scrambled eggs and not chicken. There's some phrases that you might need to know to make it super clear. And opinions, what you wrote, those are I thinks to me, in my opinion, just to name a few.
I think breakfast has by far the best kinds of food.
Sweet, and adjectives can be a big helper. Best, worst, better, easiest, or healthier. Hook in your reader with an interesting intro to keep them excited for your piece. That's essential.
Opinions, true for you, but not everyone. When you're writing an opinion piece, here's how it's done. State it clear and support your ideas with facts. Who's got opinions in here? Opinions, true for you, but not everyone. When you're writing an opinion piece, here's how it's done. State it clear and support your ideas with facts. Who's got opinions in here?
Yeah, now let's talk about supporting facts, reasons, and examples. They have your opinions back. You'll need at least 2 reasons to explain how you came to your opinion to make sense of what you're saying. These can be facts or even personal reasons that support your opinion and convince the people reading. To help the reader follow, you should use linking words like first, next, finally, second, or third.
I see. Let me try. Here's why breakfast rules.
Why?
First, it gives me energy before I go to school.
Facts.
Next, orange juice is amazing. Pancakes too. Orange juice is healthy and pancakes always make me full.
Great, that was a fact and one more opinion, but you added more facts to back it up. Now you get it. To wrap it up, restate your opinion and the reasons you believe it, then the piece is completed.
Opinions, true for you, but not everyone. When you're writing an opinion piece, here's how it's done. State it clear and support your ideas with facts. Who's got opinions in here? Opinions, true for you, but not everyone. When you're writing an opinion piece, here's how it's done. State it clear and support your ideas with facts. Who's got opinions in here? In conclusion, breakfast is the best meal because it gives you energy to start your day.
Okay.
It has delicious drinks and food that not only makes you nice and full,
Yeah?
but can also be good for you.
Oh, cool. Thanks, Maurice.
just because you're at home doesn't mean I'm not still playing vocabulary. Ooh, ooh. Okay, so our opinion writing, we're going to start planning and pre-writing, okay? So we use our T-chart, our Venn diagrams, or webs, but you guys are actually going to do an opinion piece on comparing two natural disasters. Now, we've learned about earthquakes, and you guys have already done research on volcanoes, and that's our next module that we're going to be doing. So it's going to be very, very interesting to learn about these two disasters. Okay, so don't forget that your opinion is what you believe in. It's your judgment, and you have to support your thinking. Like, give me your reasoning. So today's writing assignment will be under your classwork tab on the top, okay? And RW Lit ends at 10:15. Then at 10:15 is when you start doing math. So you'll have a different video for math. But I recorded all of this for all of you to be able to go back and check if you need to. But I'm always available for Google Classroom. Like, if you want to chat with me, I'm always there. And your parents can always email me or send me a message on Remind. Let me know how this assignment goes. I'm excited.